addiction, poverty, domestic violence, all that stuff, we need to address that. So that was what Bree is going to do for us.
Hey everyone, this is David Raleigh, Superintendent of LaRue County Schools, coming at you today with another Hawk Talk. And today I am at the Hodgenville Police Department, and with me today I have Chief James Richardson. And Chief, we have a guest with us?
We do, our new police social worker, Brionna Taylor.
All right, Brionna Taylor, welcome. So Chief Richardson, lots of folks probably have met you, seen you out in the community. Why don't you, for those folks who may not know you, why don't you tell them a little bit about you and who you are?
So, James Richardson, I come from Hardin County. We have family that are from LaRue County, so I have ties to LaRue County, and I actually live here in LaRue County now. Love the community. I came over 2013, started my career here at the police department, got promoted to sergeant, and last July before last, I got promoted to chief. I've done, ever since high school, I'm 19 years old, all I've done is police. I was an MP in the Army for 8 years on active duty, did things like accident investigation, arrest and impaired drivers, speed enforcement, traffic. Then went to Elizabethtown Police Department, worked over there for about 8 years, was on their special response team, was a DUI, DRE, drug recognition expert, all kinds of stuff. Moved over here and as LeBron James said, took his talents somewhere else. I brought mine to Hodgenville and have absolutely loved it. It has been a blessing. If I knew what small town policing was when I started in a large agency, I would have come here definitely first. You absolutely get to see how you affect people and that you're actually making a difference, and you get to know folks, which is more like, this is a perfect example of that. And could not be happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. I know that you and the police department have certainly made a difference in our schools. So, Chief Richardson, where are you from originally?
A little town called Summit, Kentucky, right off of Highway 62. If you come out of Central Hardin High School's parking lot and hang a right, go to Grayson County line. I'm right there on the Grayson-Hardin County line. Lived there, was born and raised there, and probably would never have left if I hadn't got married and had a baby when I was 19 years old, and I joined the Army, and that's when I left. And when I got done with my Army service, I came home, and I've got 2 kids. My daughter followed in the footsteps of no one in my family. She became a teacher, and my son followed my footsteps, joined the military. So wife is the ED director, or not the ED director, but the manager out at the hospital during day shift. So we've got a family of service. We've always been that way. So when I don't come home for Christmas, my kids and wife know why, because they do the same thing I do. But yeah, I come from Hardin County. I've lived here my whole life, except for the 8 years I was gone for the Army.
Well, and so, we see you in different capacities. I mean, one of the last times I saw you, you were actually speaking at our Veterans Day program.
Yes.
At the high school, and you talked about your service and the influence that's had on you and your career. I think when I first got here, one of the things that I remember learning about you was that drug recognition
expert.
And people spoke very highly of you and your expertise in that. Within the I'll let you talk a little bit here in a minute about what some of your other roles in the community, but what I want folks to understand is the relationship that LaRue County Schools has with the Hodgenville Police Department, and that you guys provide our school resource officer,
yes,
Officer Kevin Bennett, who does an outstanding job for us. You're in the process of starting a DARE program for us. I'll let you talk a little bit about that, as well as, but we'll come back to that stuff. But one of the things that we're really excited about now is what Bree is bringing to the table. So do you mind kind of sharing that with everyone?
Super excited about Bree. Bree came to us a couple months ago and was talking about maybe doing an internship or something. And I was really concerned about whether or not we'd have enough for her to do. And at the time, I didn't think we could make it work. But the more we went through, and especially with today with folks with the police reform issues, you see things on TV and the news and stuff, and some of it I think will work, some of it won't. But one thing that I do believe that would work is we need to address issues at their root cause, as opposed to the police just being responsible for them down the road. So addiction, poverty, domestic violence, all that stuff, we need to address that. So that was what Bree is going to do for us. We had a young child, who's 15 years old, a couple of weeks ago that had decided she wanted to try to commit suicide. We dealt with that issue that night and took care of her, took her where she needed to go, got her the help she needed, and then we left. So basically we put a Band-Aid on the problem. A week later, same child, same situation. And I felt, what if we had someone that could follow up with that child, let mom, dad, child know, we're here to help. We care about you. We want the best for you as part of our community. We are from the community. We want to help. And so I got to looking. I talked to Bree, and we really think we're going to make this work. Right now, it's just a pilot program, and it's going to be from now until May. It's part of our practicum for a degree path through our master's degree at UK. And so basically, it's not costing us anything to try, and it's actually helping us dramatically and also helping her. And I anticipate in May probably trying to find a grant to keep her on at least part-time, if not full-time, once she gets done with all of her training in school and everything. But I'll let her talk about some of the things that she's doing, and I mean, we are super excited for her.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bree, one of the cool things, this is one of the cool things I like about Hawk Talk, is probably 90% of the folks I talk to are graduates of LaRue County.
Yes.
Now, Chief Richardson and I are not, but you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I was pretty much born and raised here in Hodgenville. Prior to that, I was born and raised in Mumfordville, but I moved here about third grade, and I attended LaRue County High School, and I graduated in 2018. And then after that, I went on to the University of Kentucky to pursue a career in social work. And I am about 4 days shy of a bachelor's in social work, and then I'll start my master's degree and hopefully be done by this time next year in 2022.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on almost completing that
Thank you.
bachelor's degree. So what is your main interest, or do you have one yet?
My original interest, I was really interested in doing the clinical side of things. See, right now while I'm here, I'll be referring people to counselors and therapists, but initially one day I wanted to be the person that I was referring to. But the more I'm doing community work and sort of that mezzo approach, I really love doing community work. Something I never thought that I would be interested in, but now that I'm here, working with the community, collaborating with partners, talking to people, I find that I really enjoy that. And so initially it was clinical work, but now I'm thinking like if I could still do clinical work, but kind of at a mezzo approach instead of individual approach. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm geared towards.
So one of the things that we were seeing, obviously we focus on social emotional learning with our students, but one of the things we have seen since the pandemic is kind of an uptick in that need for more mental health, wellness care and trauma informed care approach. Are you familiar with some of those things? I'm saying not only with students, but we're seeing adults as well that are just trying to survive this pandemic.
I am familiar with trauma-informed approach, and speaking of the pandemic, a lot of people don't really understand, like what just happened, like what made this uptick. And, before everybody was moving at like a 90-mile-an-hour pace, moving. So I think we had a good 3-4 months where we were stuck at home. And so when you're stuck at home, you're working from home, like you have a lot of time to think about things. And I think that's where we kind of saw this huge increase in mental health. And I actually think it's a good thing as well, because a lot of people wanted reapproach their own mental health status and wanted to become more self-aware, wanted to reach out. And I think that's why we have such a scarcity in mental health resources, because so many people are wanting to approach their own mental health, and I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Which is a good thing.
Absolutely,
it's a good thing. It's no different than if you were to have some kind of ache or pain and you were to go to the doctor or buy something over the counter to take care of yourself that way. It's really no different.
Absolutely.
Well, we are really glad to have you when I say that, because obviously we believe in fact with the schools now, the whole child approach. We've got the cognitive, and we've got the behavioral, and we've got attendance, but we also want to kind of pay attention to that emotional aspect as well.
Absolutely.
So Chief Richardson, would you mind talking, because this is something that our SRO has made a big difference at the schools, but eventually when we get our DARE program,
Yes.
Can you talk about what that program is and the impact that it's going to have on our
So
kids?
we have been looking for a DARE program forever. The problem we have faced in the past, we actually got it funded, and we got a funding through a grant. And then the officer that we sent, he resigned and went to a different agency shortly after. So we were kind of in limbo for a little while. We had 2 other officers. Once we got a little bit more staff back on staff, sent them to training. It's a 2-week school down at Trooper Island through the state police. And DARE is basically, for the layman, it's basically the program. We teach kids about alcohol and drug abuse and dare to resist those substances and that lifestyle and how they can make better choices. And we've finally got that program up and running. We were getting ready to kick it off, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. So we actually had one class that we actually ran that we got up and running, and then that was all she wrote, and now we're back to protocols and stuff. So that's a program that we just cannot find a way. It's not feasible to do online via Zoom or anything. We have to be in person for that to work. So we are actually getting ready to send a second officer. We're getting ready to be full staff again, thank goodness, here shortly. And we're going to send another officer over to help Kevin with that program. And we have got nothing but high hopes for the program.
Well, yeah, it's very interactive, and I think the kids will appreciate that. I know teachers will. And here's what I'm excited about that program. The same thing that Officer Bennett does in the schools. Just like you and I have a positive relationship, when we encounter each other in public, it's positive. It's not negative. A lot of times, folks think that interaction with law enforcement is always negative. It's not. And so I think the DARE program allows our law enforcement folks to get into the school, so that at a young age that they're able to build relationships with law enforcement and police officers, and understand that we're all in this thing together to work together. And, again, I know that Officer Bennett at all the schools, he mainly works at the high and the middle, has developed some relationships out there with those students. And I just see it being one of those things that helps to continue to build this partnership. Along those same lines, I don't know if you're willing to talk about it just yet, because I don't know if we've got all the stuff worked out. But you had emailed me the other day about another grant that you had received, and
yes.
And again, we might not have all the specifics worked out, but if you don't mind,
I think we've got enough of them worked out that we can share.
Yeah.
So,
do you mind doing that for me?
I do not. The police department is part of the Live Well LaRue Coalition. We actually got 3 grants, 2 that have been approved, 1 that we're waiting on. One was for opioid equipment. We got a $5,000 grant. So what the police department did was we actually gave that money to the county, to the sheriff's department, to pay for a task force officer. And as he does opioid related activities, he'll use our money for that as far as that grant. The good news is we got almost $5,000 to use toward juveniles and kids, anti-vaping, anti-smoking, anti-alcohol, drugs, that sort of thing. So what I wanted to do was come up with a way to partner with the schools, which is where we can direct that message to the youth and bring that more of a community involvement with the school, the community, and the police department. So what I decided to do was rent a billboard. And we are going to put some type of message on a billboard somewhere on the parkway. They're all full right now, but the guy's going to promise me he'd get me one as soon as it becomes available. And we're going to have a contest at all 4 schools. And then we're going to get together, and each principal is going to come up with a way to select a student. Once that student is selected, then one representative from each school will be put on we'll take a photo, there'll be a message, and then from Hodgeville Police Department, LaRue County Schools, and then whatever message the kids come up with in order to promote that idea of vaping is our biggest issue right now, alcohol, drugs. Mm-hmm. And so we were supposed to have a meeting with that today. With technical difficulties, we've rescheduled it to Wednesday. But that, I think, is a great way to partner and a great example of what the police department and the school systems do. Because like you said earlier, most folks see the police department as negative. A lot of people had told me when we first started the SRO program, I don't want the police in the schools, harassing my kids. We are not there to be the police per se. Of course, we do police-related work, But at the same time, we're not there to search your kids' cars. We're not there to search lockers. We're not there to hash out punishment. That is the school's job. We are there to keep the peace. If anything were to happen, like active shooters, hostile parents, unwanted trespassing, anything like that, you've got a resource available right there. And more importantly, the kids are building a relationship with Officer Bennett. And the kids feel comfortable going up and talking to him, which is an asset not only to the kids, but to us. Because we find out what's going on, we can keep an ear out and an eye out for issues that before they become issues. So a wonderful opportunity for us as the police department. I can't begin to say this, just like Bree with the community. Kevin is our Bree at the school, our bridge between the police department and that organization. And I think we've built a really good working relationship with you guys, and we look forward to continuing that.
Yeah, I agree. We could not be happier with the program itself, with Officer Bennett, and not only that, but the other services that you guys provide for us, like the traffic at the beginning of the day, the end of the day,
which I totally forgot about this morning because Officer Bennett is on he is on vacation, and I was supposed to have been there at 7:30 and completely forgot. So that's my fault. I apologize. When I mess up, I take responsibility. So for those parents out here that saw that's all my fault.
That's it's all good. It happens. But again, one of those services that people may not recognize up front, but we do, and we appreciate that. And in getting back to the billboard thing, the thing that excites me about that, not only does it kind of strengthen our partnership between the schools and the police department, but also you've got messages that are created, by our kids
for
our kids. And I just and so anytime that we can, display student work and we can get our kids out there, we are excited about this. So we appreciate that opportunity. I know that the kids will be excited about that too.
Well, you guys have a great group of kids at the schools, and I mean, every time I go out there, I'm reminded how respectful they are. I've been some places that not so much, and LaRue County has always been an eye-opener for that. I mean, even the citizens, the kids, respectful, honest, and like I said, I wouldn't have moved here if it wasn't, but I just can't say enough good things about the school either. I mean, it's just...
About every Hawk Talk episode that we do, the person I'm talking with, they talk about what great people that we have in the community, and so that begins at home, and you're right. It shows with the respect our kids. Now they're going to be kids. They're not, and just like adults, they're not perfect. They're going to have bad days where they're going to forget to show up for.
But we expect that.
That's right.
And we can accept mistakes. But when mistakes become a mistake after mistake, that's a pattern of conduct. And if we can nip that before, I tell kids all the time, let me help you while you're 16, because when you turn 18, it's a completely different world. When you get out of this school environment and you do this, if you had done this 2 years later, you'd be going to jail, you'd have a felony on your record, or you'd have a record. So let us help you now. And most kids are very receptive to that. And I found that if you tell kids what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the benefits of doing that, they're a lot more receptive than just walking in saying, this is the way it's going to be, don't ask questions, and it is what it is. So, and then Kevin does a good job at that as well. So, I mean, what a partnership.
Well, let me ask you, is there anything like you knew that we were going to come and talk to you and we're going to sit down and have this Hawk Talk, is there anything that maybe you want to share with the community that I haven't asked about, but that you think it's very relevant?
Some of the things, everything you've talked about is basically direct involvement from the police department into the schools. It's important for the community to know too that there is a ton of stuff that we do at the police department, the officers do, that has an indirect and not so much direct. So as an example, we are members of the sexual assault response team in Hardin County. And that actually, we'll meet there next week. And that brings everybody to bear that has to do with sexual assault. Say nurses from the hospital, prosecutors, police officers, the AG's office in Frankfort. We have the shelter. There's so many partners, so that if something were to happen to someone in our community, and that's anywhere in LaRue County, then we can reach out and help those people. And we have the network to help those folks and get them with the care they need. Same thing for kids. We have, unfortunately, there's been an uptick in the number of cases we've seen with child pornography, exploitation on the internet. So we partner with different organizations. Like for right now, I've got cell phones being downloaded at the Homeland Security. Who in the world would have ever thought Homeland Security would be helping us out with stuff like that? But as small a department as we are, we can't do it by ourselves. So we partner with other individuals. Another big portion of that is CIT, our crisis intervention team. We meet again next week. Start is on Mondays, and then the following Thursday is CIT. And that's where we come together, and the same thing as the sexual assault response team, but for mental health. So it's our Lincoln Trails, our Communicare, our Central State. And that gives us the ability, when something does happen and a child's in crisis, then we know who to call, where to get them to, and that's where Bree comes in as well. She'll be our go-to member for those teams, and we cannot do it alone. As good as LaRue County communities are, and everyone will agree, we don't have a lot of resources in the county. We're a rural county, we have wonderful people, but at that, we don't grow very often as far as some people want, some people don't want. So I'm not here to say either way, but I will tell you that we have to resource a lot of stuff out of the county when it comes to those things. And the state police, the federal government helps us with all kinds of stuff. So there's all kinds of things that go on behind the scenes. We're just not out writing speeding tickets.
Right.
You just don't see us out at checkpoints. We're investigating major crimes. We assist other agencies with doing that, and that all ties back into the school because, and I'll give you a wonderful example. We have a thing now called Handle with Care. I love it, where the schools are tied into our reporting system, and if we go out on a call at 2:00 in the morning and there's a child there that goes to a LaRue County school, we report that, and a message gets sent to the school representative, and then in the next morning when this child is not up to the level they usually are, you'll know what's going on. And if they need some extra attention or need some help, you know who to reach out to. And everything we do at the police department, and this is since I became chief and as I was sergeant and Chief Jackson was here, everything we do at the community is based off the community. Mm-hmm. So we want to partner with you, we want to help you. And the school system is its own little world, but they have the same microcosms that we have. It's just like a little society. My son just joined the Navy, and I tell him all the time, like an aircraft carrier is a floating city. When you get off, it's just like being at home, but when you're on that ship, it's its own little city, just like the school system is its own little entity, but it has the same problems. So if we can get to the root cause of those problems, that's what we want to do. And I cannot begin to say, just like I've said over and over since we started talking, how happy I am that we have those people and those resources, and that we've built those bridges, and that we have those resources to bring to bear on the problems we face in LaRue County, because we cannot do it alone. It is absolutely a community partnership between us, the county, the school systems, the health department, Communicare. Everybody in the system has their own piece of the pie, and I'm super happy that we're all at the table.
And I think that's an important point to make here, is that it is a partnership, and it is everybody working together, because we really are all on the same team, and we all want the same thing.
Absolutely.
We want a safe community, just like we want safe schools. Let me say this about, just learned this past week. We've decided recently to participate in the Handle with Care, but I heard from the executive director from the Kentucky Center of School Safety earlier last week that we are the only state in the country that has full participation on every county in the state that's participating in that program. So I think that speaks volumes for the state as well as just LaRue County. So again, it kind of ventures out, goes just beyond us. It's kind of a state thing, but I think you're right. And the other thing that I appreciate about what you're saying is you're right. Most time when folks see the community, it's reactive, but there's a lot of stuff that you guys do behind the scenes that's proactive,
yes,
to try to keep that stuff from happening to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've got to address it at the root cause. And like I said earlier, if I had known what small town policing was, I'd have started in a small town, because in E-Town, and it's no fault of theirs, there's just so much activity. You go from call to call to call to call to call, and you don't really see what's going on until you go back to that same house a month later. Here, when I take a call today, that's a neighbor. That's somebody I'm going to see him at IGA. I'm going to see him at Circle K or the Valero. I'm going to see him at Hometown, and I can actually see what we did, if it made a positive impact, a negative impact. And I will say this about folks from LaRue County: they're not hesitant to tell you whether you're doing good or bad. And if you do something you're not supposed to be doing, or they don't appreciate, they're going to let you know. Yeah. And you're never going to hurt my feelings. My job is not only to make sure we get those resources deployed correctly, but if we need to fix it, if we need to tweak it a little bit to make it better, then that's what we need need to do. So if constructive criticism is never going to be lost on us. However, just don't call to complain. We get that on occasion too. People complain just to be complaining. I get it. I listen to you. May review a little bit on Facebook, but if you have a legitimate issue, absolutely, we are an open book. Come to the PD and talk to us.
We have no idea what you're talking about in terms of complaining. No, we've never had complaints.
I can't imagine that there would be any correlation between the school system getting complaints and us.
So Chief, before we wrap up here, if I were to ask you in terms of the community, in terms of LaRue County, what would you say your vision? If we look 5-10 years down the road for this community.
Well, if you had asked me this a year ago, it'd have been completely different. I will tell you that right now, my thought is, and I'm already on it from the police department perspective, but the city and the county have got a reckoning coming with this battery factory that's going in Hardin County.
I've heard about that.
I foresee that in the next 5 to 10 years with those folks coming in, we are going to grow whether we want to or not. We're going to have to. There's not going to be anywhere for these folks to go. Those problems, when you bring that many people in, they bring problems with them, that good and bad. So I foresee in the next couple of years, what I want to do is continue to grow and get what we need, what we foresee in the future, those needs met now, so that we have those bridges built in the future and we can just expand them as we need them. But in the next 5 to 10 years, I foresee, whether they like it or not, folks in LaRue County are going to have to grow a little bit. And that's just the way it is. And the sooner we can get on that and prepare the infrastructure and everything on that, the better off everybody's going to be. I know I can't say enough good things about Judge Jurett over at the county, Mayor Phelps. Both are absolutely 100%. Just like you guys are at the school system, you support everything we try, good or bad. If it fails, we'll fix it. If it's good for us. But can't say enough good things about those guys. And 10 years, it's going to be a lot different story than what you're seeing now, I think.
You're right. You make a very good point. And two good folks in leadership positions to kind of help get that started. Yep. Bree, I don't want to leave you out because here you are. You're a LaRue County graduate. Mm-hmm. You have seen this thing through the lens of a student. Now you're seeing it through the lens of someone coming out of college. Well, what is your vision for this community?
My vision kind of goes right along with him, except I just really want to see more community collaboration. I think we have a great thing going right now, but there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth, and I would just love to see that growth continue. And that's just what I think that's a fantastic thing, like collaboration between, our cabinet and counseling, schools, collaboration with the law enforcement, just collaboration. Nothing bad can come from that, but everything good can come from that. And that's
love that word.
Yes.
The folks that I work with, they know it's one of my favorite words, collaboration.
Collaboration, yes.
That's right. Bree, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Welcome aboard.
Mr. Wright, always a pleasure.
Well, listen,
so
I appreciate your service. I appreciate your positive attitude, and we just appreciate all that you do for the schools and the community.
Well, just remember, we can't do it alone, so thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. That does it for another episode of Hawk Talk, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. But until then, it's always a great day to be a Hawk.